All right.
Is that with chapter 11?
Well, actually, we did 9 and 10 too, right? For
this week? Yeah, you're right.
Oh, 9 was the one where she talked about how she realized that she was like a threat to the families. I thought that was a really interesting chapter.
It was very eye-opening, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, it really kind of made me see maybe some of the thoughts of the families that I work with at Cedar Ridge, being so low income. I've had a few parent interactions where I just did not understand their point of view, but this, I think, really helped, especially reading the actual parent's perspective, Lori's, where she's like, my girls are not going to be alone with another white woman. I thought that was just really powerful.
Yeah, I agree, and I wondered kind of how many times that I may have been oblivious to something like that happening in my interactions with parents. So I thought that was really interesting, and really just showed like how like these positions of power working together, and I kind of talked about that on the Google Doc, but that, teachers have a lot of power, but with that power, like, some parents can feel threatened by that if they're worried about teachers reporting or learning something secretive about, what's going on at home, and I just thought that was really interesting.
Mm-hmm. And I think for me it was kind of offered completely opposite view because, you want to be able to connect your students so that they can open up in their writing and their discussions. And the disconnect that the parent felt was really eye-opening because I've never thought about things in that way. And for me, in a way, I would like to take some of this knowledge and go back to my job at Arcola, and I think I could understand a lot of the parents' relationships there a lot better than what I have up here. We have a lot of the opposite. We have a lot of helicopter parents that, are without, I guess, a diversity or a disconnect. So it's a different perspective, and it was really good reading the other side, reading the mom's why she felt the way that she did. I think without that, this textbook would not have been as. I don't think I would have been able to actually connect to it as much without having the story, the narrative.
I agree, and that says something about Stephanie Jones' work because on page 107 it says that story didn't come out for 2 years of her working with that family. So, I mean, she just put in so much time to understand these girls and these families, and I think that work is helping us as teachers get to know our situations even better. Maybe for those teachers who don't have the time to do something like that.
I agree. And that kind of, to me, tied into, I don't mean to skip around, but tied into what chapter was it? Hang on 1 second, sorry.
It's okay.
When they were talking about, like, the princess theme.
Mm-hmm. This is chapter 11.
And how they were reconstructing and deconstructing those roles and the way that it worked within their community. And I just thought that was really interesting, kind of talking about, like, mothers and daughters and having children at a young age perhaps. And I thought that was a really interesting way for girls to start to think about the roles that they have in society and trying to come up with different ways to make those work and to reach their goals that they have for themselves. I thought that was really, really interesting.
And their writings, the way that their writings developed those characters in different ways. They weren't all the atypical princess in danger, prince comes to rescue. That, I think, spoke volumes.
Just challenging that status quo, that, even second graders can start to do that in their writing and in their reading. And, that was really inspirational, I thought.
I think that's something that I wrote about, is that, we think about, the text that we use and thinking about it that way, but I don't think I've ever looked at a student's writing to see those things in, my student work. I thought that was an interesting, that make it, a really relevant way to talk about those issues. Obviously it's something that means something to them, something they understand. Way to approach it.
I agree.
Yeah, and like I said on the Google Doc, it would just take a long time to get that relationship with your students where you could look at their writing even in a critical way. You'd have to do so much groundwork with looking at literature in a critical way first before you ever went into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought she gave a lot of really good examples, though, of how to... and I think we all kind of said this at some point, she was giving us actual examples and ways to implement these things in the classroom in a way that not a lot of texts that I've read have been that way. It's more well, you should care about your students. It's yeah, I already do. So how do I, how do I make this happen? What are some actual strategies and ways that you're doing this and implementing it?
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes we get caught up in so much, we have to do so much. I think Allison said this, that we have to do so much other types of genres of writing that unless we're doing a writing workshop mentality, that we don't often have the time to have to just write out and sort out where anything and everything is free and open. That there's no to the writing.
Mm-hmm. And I really enjoyed in chapter 10 when she started talking about how she was looking for the disconnects in the students' writing. I thought that was a really good place to start, especially with the younger kids. Like you and I will be teaching Jillian with how you can, ask instead of what you connect with in this writing, what is not like your life? Because that's the perfect way to start. They can answer a question like that, and then you can build off from there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I thought that was a really awesome way to go about it.
I'm thinking about that too at school and how, again, it's very impressive for something. I think.
Yeah, I agree.
How every one of us, if we read that poem, we're going to have a different perspective of picturing that, and then to reveal the actual setting of that poem is going to be another, connect for some and disconnect for others.
Allison, you said in chapter 10 that that students should be invited to question what is presented as normal, and I thought that was a really good point that you made about teaching students to question, more critically the society and the text that they're reading. I thought that was a really good point.
And that's what I like about asking them to disconnect. It's okay that it's not like you, but let's ask why it's not like you.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay that it's not that's not the normal. Who's to decide?
Have any of you ever had a situation where students' writing came up and you weren't really sure how to react?
Yeah, a parent called me actually on his 8th grade daughter's journal, and I hadn't left him in a while, and he called me and asked if I would actually read her journal and talk to her, because apparently she felt this total shutdown and it was really pretty popular that there was the parent block there. She did not want to open communication. And this is what really caught me off guard. This is opposite to Jones, is that every one of her entries said, I wish I could have time to talk to Miss K, because I think she would understand how I'm feeling. And I just went, hey, I need some one-on-one and how do I do this? Because there's that constant fear of overstepping your boundaries and putting yourself in a position that could be viewed the wrong way. It's all about perception. And so, like, how do I do this without showing that I'm giving too much attention to one child and yet not, there's a lot of that. There's no way she's going to verbalize in front of the classroom. And making myself available to it.
Right.
I've had more, like, just kids say things that, like, to them, I think feels, like, normal, but I don't know. But it's, like, things that, like, make me more really concerned for what's going on at home or wherever they're talking about. And it's, like, and sometimes I say it in front of an audience, and I feel like it was kind of, like, a scenario that happened earlier in the book where it's, like, I don't really know how to address it, and you don't want to be like, oh, cool, and move on.
Right.
But I don't necessarily want them giving all these details that might lead down not a good path in front of a lot of other people either. And I'm like, let's talk about that later. Like, I don't, in those situations, it's hard to tell what the appropriate response is, and having to make a decision quickly is hard.
Yeah, again, thinking about that situation we had talked about including in the presentation, I still don't know how I might have addressed that situation in the moment. I mean, I love to think that I would have engaged it and talked to her about it right there, but it's still difficult.
Maybe that's her point, though, too, because I agree with you both that, like, I've had situations where a student says something and in front of an audience and it's kind of uncomfortable, and I think maybe that's kind of her point, is that we should be thinking about these things now so that in the moment we have better strategies to address students and kind of think about what we will say in the future or how we will handle it in the future. I don't know.
And just to make sure that we still, whatever our response is, we still make the child feel valued.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, should we start talking about our presentation, maybe?
Sure.
Okay. Did you see I signed us up for Wednesday?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Well, I knew that Melanie, you couldn't be there on Monday, and then when I got into the document, the 2 Tuesday slots were already taken. So Wednesday it is.
Okay.
I'm surprised I didn't sign up. I was just telling Julian before you guys got on about the drama surrounding the presentation days.
Oh, yeah. It'll be okay. That means I'll have 2 presentations on Wednesday, but, that's life. All right. So I found those, like, she kind of summarized her own book for us in chapter 12 when she identified those 4 key things that she wanted her readers to take away. So I didn't know if we wanted to kind of build our summary of the book around those 4 things, and maybe each of us could take one of them and build a slide on it and then be able to summarize that with some evidence from the book and stuff, at least for part of the presentation.
Yeah, to me.
I think we could, in my other group project that I did where we had to do a presentation on a book, we kind of took, the 3 parts of the book, summarized them, and then we came up with the discussion question about each part, so that kind of took up some time and allowed the class to get involved, like, throughout the presentation. So I don't know if we could do that. I mean, each of those...
I was wondering, I like that idea, and I was wondering, like, how at the top of our thing we have some ideas for...
Yeah.
activities, do you think that those would, I haven't really looked back recently, but do you think that those would kind of fit with the end 4 points?
I think some of them probably would. I can't look at them right now because I'm doing the recording, but...
Okay.
I think we should still definitely read the situation. I don't remember which girl it was when she brought up that her stepdad was a bully.
Yes.
I think that would be a good attention grabber, maybe as the opener.
I agree.
And then we could readdress it at the end. And now after we've talked about all these things, what do you think you'd do now? I don't know. Was that in chapter 4?
Ideas that we had said were asking the question, what is poor? Doing the poetry idea from where I'm from, although Melanie said she had done that in a different classroom.
Right.
Doing one of the reconstructing text activities on page 77. And then, Kaylee, I think you had said also doing the summary like we're talking about already. So,
taking notes.
So those may just fit in to what are the four things in chapter 2?
The first one is assumptions and stereotypes grounded in social class are uninformed, perpetuated through the construction of texts of all sorts, and are in desperate need of being deconstructed and reconstructed. So that first one definitely fits with those reconstruction of texts on page 77.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm going to write that in there on the Google Doc.
Okay.
Okay.
The second one, it's challenging stereotypes and learning about and from individual children and families is an imperative piece of any educational practice grounded in social justice. So that's like the part about getting to know families.
Yeah, where I'm from.
Yeah. We wouldn't have to do that, but we could just talk about it.
Yeah, maybe we could even just read one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The third one is serious consideration of the identity work students must negotiate if they take different paths from family members is crucial.
Could that be like the mother, like the whole chapter about having more options and
that they don't want them to have kids like they did, but they also don't want them to leave. It's
right.
That's the identity work, and then even Stephanie Jones' own reflections on her life and how she doesn't want her family to view her as, stuck up and...
Right. I don't know if something about, we've mentioned this before about how our parents say that they want us to be more successful and I don't know, somehow, brain's not fully functioning this morning. I don't know, something about the class's perspective of what is more successful, what is breaking, the cycle or something to that point. But then you might get to, I don't know.
I think bringing up the point too that, like when she said that she didn't want the girls to leave, she hopes they go away and learn to be critical thinkers and but then to come back and advocate to help break the cycle. I thought that was a really interesting. Kind of cool with that.
Yeah, that definitely fits that section. Then the last one was critical literacy offers tools for becoming more socially perceptive and equipping oneself with the skills necessary to work towards social change. Teachers and children alike should be actively engaged in critical literacy practices. So that kind of goes with chapters 10 and 11 with the reading and writing workshop and strategies for using critical literacy. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to check the recording to see how much time we have